One of the most new exciting features about EIB Financial Analytics 218 is the ability here to connect our databases into Power BI. So if you think of what happens at the moment, you have a Sage 200, 1000, maybe a ShipNet cube, finance cube, produced in what used to be financial intelligence. You build that cube and you access it through our Excel front end in Report Studio. With 218, you have the ability to use any of those cubes, any of the finance cubes, and indeed any cubes that we produce using App Studio, and actually directly connect those to Microsoft's Power BI. Now, why would you want to do that? One of the things that Power BI offers is the ability to deploy information through the web, and it allows you to deploy through the web and also through mobile devices. But the beauty of using it on top of our cubes is you inherit all the business logic that are in the cube. So taking something like finance, you have variances already available in the cube. You have year-to-date calculations, rolling average calculations, financial statements for your P&Ls and balance sheets. All of that gets inherited. So you don't have to program that or add that manually as you would have to do with a normal Power BI model. You can just connect it to the existing cubes you have. The other thing you want is obviously consistency when you're displaying dashboards, and Excel in Business has a raft of experience in doing this. So we try and structure the dashboards so they are consistent, they have navigation in the same places, and we try and make the use of colour and also the use of charts to make it easy to understand for the end user. So not only do you get the technology advantages of using Power BI, but you also get our templates where you can add these yourself, replace our logo, and you've got all the navigation and best practices built in. So what I want to do here is I want to actually just show you this on a finance cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a finance cube that actually was developed in EIB Financial Analytics 218 based on Sage data, and then we're going to edit that dashboard in Power BI and add some new functionality. Okay, so I'm just going to go over to my Power BI service here, and you'll see here that I have a Power BI dashboard here where I've got profit and loss by cost center. So let's just open up that dashboard. So this now is connecting to the same finance cube as you guys would be using Report Studio against based on your Sage data. So we're pointing Power BI directly at it, but instead of using an Excel front end here, we are absolutely using a browser, just any browser, whether that be Chrome, Internet Explorer, Safari, whatever. And it can also have the same experience on a mobile device. So there's a Power BI application for Android devices and a Power BI application for iOS devices. And the beauty of using those is the information will reflow like any modern website. So you would get the dashboard appearing after the table here if you were viewing it on, say, an iPhone. So I've got this report, and you can see here I've got profit and loss by cost center. Now what I might want to do is say, well, actually that's good, but in Sage 200 we have cost centers and we also have departments. Now how much effort would it be to actually duplicate this dashboard in the same Power BI model and change that so I can pick up departments instead of cost centers? So what I'm going to do here is I can actually edit in Power BI. I can actually edit on the web, but I find it's easier to edit using the desktop version. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually download this report off the web. So you can see there, download a copy of the Power BI model. It's called a .ppix file, and if I click open on that, then that will crank up the free Microsoft Power BI desktop client, and it will connect to the cube produced by Excel in Business Financial Analytics 218. This takes a little while. It will load up the dashboard, connect it back to the cube to check everything is okay, and it will give me these editing options here on the right hand side. Now the first thing I'm doing, I can say, well, actually I'm happy with the layout here. I just don't want it to be by cost center, I want it to be by department. So the easiest way of doing that is actually duplicating a report I already have. So in Power BI, this is really, really simple. You just right click on the tab, hit duplicate, and you'll see now I've got a duplicate of profit and loss by cost center. Now I'm going to change this to department, because that's so the first thing I'm going to do is just make sure I've got the actual terminology right when I've edited this report. This one is not going to be a duplicate profit and loss by cost center. It's actually going to be a profit and loss by department. So very similar, I guess, to as we would do in Excel here. We're changing effectively the sheet name now, but I've changed nothing else. Now I'm going to go also to the header here and change my cost center by department. So fairly simple stuff so far, but of course now I've got to do the more potentially challenging bit. I've actually got to change now the cost centers here in the columns and the cost centers used in the chart to departments. So if I click on the object I'm interested in changing, first one here is going to be this table. You'll see if I go to the data here, you'll see that I've got in my columns, I've got a cost center. Now here I'm connected to my financial analytics cube, and if I expand the nominal account just as I would in EiB Report Studio, I've got all these dimensions here, and if I scroll down, you'll see that as I scroll down past cost center here, you'll see department. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag departments into the columns here, delete cost centers, and just by making that change now, this one is now set to department. And if I want to do the corresponding thing over in the dashboard, I do exactly the same. I drag departments into legend here, and you'll see that that now has replaced all the information. So how hard was that? I've now gone from having a fully interactive dashboard that was based on cost center, and I've picked up all the formatting and layout of the table and the chart, and I've now got a view by department. But you could say, well, hold on, when I was looking at by cost center, I wanted the user to be able to change a department and then see the effect of cost across cost centers. So maybe I want to allow them here, if I'm looking at department, the ability to actually change the cost center. So again, I click on the dimension here, which I've got set as category, and you'll see here that I've got the field here as category here. If I now change that and drag cost center into here instead, then you'll see now I can pick a cost center. So now I've got all the cost centers, and if I wanted to see which departments are associated with the factory and warehouse console, or installation and design cost center is what I clicked, then you can see instantly that's how we would do it. If I deselect that, so we go back to all, you'll see them all come back. Now I want to go further than that, so I've got my profit and loss by cost center. I'm going to drag that tab here, just so I've got it at the front. And you could say, well, hold on though, at the front I actually want the dashboards from each one, and I want to have cost center and department. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to again duplicate a page here, and I'm going to put here, instead of the duplicate, I'm going to rename this page and have this summary by department and cost center. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here, and this is where Power BI is so easy, I've got the department one here, so what I'm going to do here is I want a graphical summary, so I'm going to delete the actual table altogether, and I'm going to go over where I want to pick up my histogram chart for the cost center, and I'm going to click on that, usual Windows, Control C, go back to the summary, Control V, and then move the dashboard out the way. And you can see I can obviously spend a bit of time lining this up properly, but just do that fairly crudely. And now I've got a summary now where I've actually got the profit and loss here, and maybe I want to just change that profit and loss by cost center and department. And now, of course, if I now move that back, drag that back to the beginning, I've now got a summary where I've got the dashboards for cost center and department. I've got then a breakdown by department here, and I've got a breakdown by cost center here. So I've built a huge amount of functionality into this. I've changed the dashboard that was there, added some pages, and I didn't really need to be that much of an expert. If you've got a base template which we can provide, then you can do a hell of a lot with this. So now, of course, what I want to do is save that dashboard. So remember, I downloaded this, so I'm actually saving this as a local file, and now I'm going to publish that back to the cloud. So now I'm going to take this edited dashboard and I'm going to publish this back. It was in the financial analytics workspace really just being like a folder, and this now is going to actually publish generation 1 here. I could have renamed it, but I left it here, and it won't overwrite. It's actually going to keep my original one intact, and I can go back to my Power BI service and open it from the browser as I did before, or I can open it directly here from the publish. So now this is going to reopen a new dashboard which is the same name as the other one with a brackets and a 1 in it, so I haven't overwritten the original dashboard. Of course I could have done if I want to, and this will now be the full dashboard on the web. So now just think what I've done here, because what I've done is actually I've made those changes and I've published it back to the web, but it means anyone now with a browser or mobile device that has access to this service can now fully interact with this dashboard, and it took seconds. So in terms of disseminating information to a much wider audience, this is extremely powerful. The other thing that's very powerful that you can do in Power BI that you can't really do in any Excel add-in is the ability here to go here and say look at cause and effect. So in other words, if I look at the right hand side where I've got department, you can see bespoke kitchens in sales makes up majority of my sales, 789,000. If I wanted to see how much within a cost center, I can just click on that and it will now isolate. It will isolate now that the bespoke kitchens. Sorry, well, if I click on it, it will now isolate that and show me the relative contribution in the cost centers. So if you actually see here, bespoke kitchens sales actually represents about 60% of the factory warehouse cost center. So you can do that sort of cause and effect thing, which is really, really powerful. Now, because the data is not terribly complete here, it doesn't give it such a nice feel. But again, if I went to gross profit and said, or let's take something like costs where we've got more variation. If I looked at profit before overheads and clicked on that bar, which is the factory warehouse cost center, I can see now the effect here. In fact, most of the profit here was in these different departments. So a nice way of building dashboards that can be disseminated to a wider audience, a nice way of reusing everything in your cube, because the problem normally when deploying Power BI is you're starting again. So you've got some data in Excel and you're trying to remesh it and rebuild in all the calculations that you might have had in your Excel model. Here we're sharing the same business logic, so the cube gives us everything. The cube produced in EiB Financial Analytics or EiB Analytics or EiB Insurance Analytics, depending on what industry you're in, all the business logic is picked up and is accessed instantly from the Power BI solution. So this is a real cool thing that we've developed in 218, and it means now any EiB solution can be deployed from Excel clients, web clients and mobile clients pretty much without any effort.